Hello and welcome back to Authentic Conversations with Moji, where we have authentic conversations so we can transform our lives and become the best authentic version of ourselves. My name is Moji Solo Wilson. I'm a certified life coach and inclusion and diversity specialist who is also passionate about real estate. So, welcome. As we wait for other people to join us, just bear with me 1 second as I set up the day. All right. Welcome again to Authentic Conversations. Ṣílẹ̀kùn ayọ̀ mi o, bàbá ṣílẹ̀kùn ayọ̀ mi. Ìbànújẹ́ ò jẹ́ kó jìnnà sílé mi. Wàá múnú mi dùn, bàbá onílé ayọ̀. Ọ̀rọ̀ ayọ̀ mi má jẹ́ kó pa mí lẹ́kún. Ṣílẹ̀kùn ayọ̀ mi o, bàbá ṣílẹ̀kùn ayọ̀ mi. Ìbànújẹ́ ò jẹ́ kó jìnnà sílé mi. Wàá múnú mi dùn, bàbá onílé ayọ̀. Ọ̀rọ̀ ayọ̀ mi má jẹ́ kó pa mí lẹ́kún. So, welcome again. I decided to have this conversation with you guys because there's been so much in the press, in the Nigerian community, about pastors that abuse young children. And there's been a lot going on about husbands and, you know, and partners and such that take advantage of young people. So the question came about, how do we protect ourselves? How do we protect our family? What can we do? Because very often when we're looking at these cases, right, we tend to see someone on the outside, never our brothers, never our family members, never our husband. I mean, your husbands, because I'm a lesbian, sorry, so I don't have a husband, but never our partners. Very often we don't ask ourselves, how did we even get here, right? So as you guys share the video for me, and as you share the video for me, I hope to get more people in. It's an interactive conversation, or else I'll be on Clubhouse having this, I'll be someplace else having this conversation. I really prefer to hear your voices. So do me a favor. If you'd like to join me in about 10 minutes, just click on the link above. There's a link there that says StreamYard. So wherever you're watching from as well, say hello so I know that you're there. Hello, good afternoon, students, Nubian, welcome. So again, let's ask ourselves, how did we get to this point where it has become absolutely normal for people to be sexually harassed or sexually abused in our homes? And a lot of people are not looking inward. We tend to always look outward because the monster, for some reason, we all believe is outside, when most of the time the monster is in our home. So there's a case right now that's floating around. I never use people's names. Allegedly, a doctor, very well-renowned doctor, who runs a cancer clinic and who does a lot of research and a lot of good work in the women's cancer department, right? Yes. So allegedly, the guy was raping a 15-year-old family member of his wife, and the wife now goes to the police. As of yesterday, there were comments out there, stories out there, that the mother came out and said, why are you guys upset? My son is not the only person or the first person to rape a minor. First of all, I was totally blown away because I could not understand how a parent could say something like that. How could you protect your child that has done such atrocity, that you have the audacity to say, my son is not the first person to rape a minor? See, this thing's been going on in Nigeria for hundreds of years, and I say hundreds because I feel like I'm more than half a century, so forgive me. But hundreds of years, it's been going on for a long time, and in the past, pedophiles used the label of marriage, where they would marry a 9-year-old, and they would use religion as the excuse for their taste if I could use that word, or their crime against minors. They would marry off 9-year-olds. Parents used to, in the past, marry off their young daughters. It's rape, voluntary rape, involuntary rape, whatever you want to call it, in my opinion. That's how I say it. They would marry off their daughters to raise money and things like that. That's like prostitution, high class. If a parent marries out their young child, you're a pimp. Again, my personal opinion. So this lawyer is out there talking. The lawyer had spoken to Kate Henshaw, allegedly told Kate Henshaw that he did this horrible thing. And then he tried to deny it. And Kate came out and said, this is unacceptable. You're not going to make me into a liar and all that. Right? Students says, sounds like she really doesn't care what he did to the child. I don't think she cares, because at the end of the day, right, a lot of parents, we overprotect our children. Now think about the traditional Nigerian family, average family, not the Europeanized family, right? The average Nigerian family growing up, we all grew up with cousins and I'm not saying that only men rape or only boys rape, because I know a lot of my friends who have told me, who are men, and they've told me that their first sexual encounter was with their house girl, who is usually a lot older than the children in the home. So in the past, we used to bring family members in to help with the housework. And also in the past, if you send your child to your uncle, your aunt, because you can't afford to educate them, the contract was for you and your partner, your husband, your family, to help to educate the child. That was the sole purpose of that. So you have a lot of people that grew up as house girls or house boys or house help, because their parents could not afford to send them to school and educate them or even raise them, right? So we got to the point when I got older, I started to see all these young girls being raped, not physically raped, not in front of me, but they would talk about it. There was a lot of sexual abuse being going on in homes and nobody talked. A lot of you know your husbands have raped young girls and you don't say anything because you're too ashamed or you're too embarrassed, or even when you try to say something, people will tell you, shh, don't worry, just manage him, talk to him. You can't cure a pedophile. And pedophile comes in in both genders, female or male. And now I have to add non-binary because inclusion and diversity, right? Pedophiles come in every sexuality, every gender, every class. It's not rich people only. I read a story, because before I come on, I do a lot of research. I read a story from a year and a half ago where a man got drunk. He, his child, and his wife were sleeping on the same bed in a face-to-face. And the guy allegedly was drunk and he rolled over and he raped his daughter. And now the daughter was pregnant. And the wife bullied the man into paying her 50,000 naira. Can you imagine? The wife blackmailed the father into paying her 50,000 naira so she would be quiet. So you got paid 50,000 naira for your child's life, instead of going straight to the police, instead of having your husband arrested, or at least getting him some therapy or some help or something. No, the wife chose, the mother, biological mother of this child, chose 50,000 naira, right? 50,000 naira, not less than $100 today, right? It's so upsetting how these things that's going on in this world these days, right? So now, nobody would have known. This whole thing would have been hush-hush. But the neighbors saw that the child was pregnant and they asked her what happened, and she told them, and they now reported the case to the police. There's the case of the Princess Ojo's niece, adopted child, who was raped by a big-time movie maker. You know that under normal circumstances, if it was not for social media, this case would have been swept under the brush, a judge would have been paid off, and everything would have been absolutely quietened. But it didn't happen because social media picked it up. I'm not saying social media is a great way to get your news, but thank God that social media picked it up, right? Look at this. This is Chioma, who says on this platform right now, she says, "You are right, ma. My ex-husband molested my daughter, who happened to be his stepdaughter, when she was about 6 years old. These things happen. They happen in our home. A lot of us are not really paying attention because we think it's happening someplace else. We have to start to pay more attention. There's no reason. And for me, let's talk about solution. Let's talk about red flags. When you see your husband, your boyfriend, your mother, your daughter, your somebody being overly sexual, right, with a minor, speak up. Speak up. When you see your daughter sitting on a man's lap, I don't care if it's their father, if it's their brother, if you have a thing of a feeling, speak up. Right? Because brothers rape sisters as well. There's a case in America of a Nigerian man who impregnated both of his daughters, and they had 3 or 4 children, and the wife was in the house. We women seem to be the matriarch of misogyny. We seem to be the ones that have a lot of power, but we don't realize how powerful we are. And I repeat, please note that it's not just men that rape. Women rape girls, women rape boys, women rape, men rape. So this is not about a gender war, it's not. But we also know that most of the cases that are reported by women. So for whatever reason, it seems that there is much more raping going on by men. And I bet part of that is because a lot of men are too afraid to come out and say, I was raped. Because when a woman has sex with a human being, it's considered as you're considered a bad person, you're considered not to have morals. But people forget there's 2 people involved in any kind of sexual activity, voluntary or involuntary, right? A lot of the young men that I know, or a lot of the men that I know, they have told me that their house girls were the first ones to have, that they had the first set of people they had sex with, and their friends will, shuku to you, high five, and tell them they're doing amazing things. Oh my God, you're amazing. They become rock stars when they are raped, not knowing that there's a long-term effect that raping, this violation, has on everybody. I have a young man that I mentor right now who was raped by his aunt as a young child. I have another one who was raped by the housekeeper as a young child. So their relationship with sex has never been normal. We have to start to stand up and speak up. And part of the ways to look for signs is when your daughter, your niece, your house girl starts acting funny, starts mouthing off, starts being overly sexual or sensual, you must make a note of it. You must pull them in and ask them questions, right? Ask them questions. How? What? Are you okay? Did somebody rape? Did somebody touch you? Because half the time, these young people do not even have the language. Did somebody touch you here? Did somebody do something to you? Did somebody put something in your mouth? Did somebody tell you not to tell me something? But for a child to trust you, all the shouting and the ashewo and the this and the that, you cannot afford to do that, right? So we have to please take note and understand that we are the gatekeepers of these young people, right? At least 80% of Nigerian women, in my opinion, have been sexually harassed. At the very least, out of every 10 Nigerian women and girls that I speak to, at least 5 of them, 50% has been raped at one point or the other. It's either by a school teacher, a brother, a cousin, it's usually somebody that is in our sphere. It's usually a family member that rapes young people. All right? A lot of us have been through that. A lot of us have been through that. You can't even walk through a market in Nigeria without a man groping you because of the way that we've given so much power to men, misogyny, patriarchy. And we women are part of the problem. Don't come for me. If you don't like my conversation, you can leave. We women, I repeat, are part of the problem. There's no reason why your husband and you are sleeping in the same bed. I get that people are poor and people have no money. But there's no reason why your husband and you and your 13-year-old are sleeping in the same bed. If you live in a one room, you should not have 10 children. You should be on birth control. So let's start by having children that we can emotionally, financially, and psychologically support. Because when you have 5, 7 children and you guys are in the same room and you're doing the jiggy jiggy with your partner, right? Your children don't know what's right from wrong, because most of us, we didn't have, I know I didn't have conversations about sex with my father. Most of the things I learned in boarding school from my friends, and a lot of the information was absolutely wrong. So when we, as parents, as adults, as caretakers, start to be open and have these normal conversations with our children, with our awardees, by talking about sex. What is a healthy sexual relationship? By the time a boy is 10, it's been said that the boy will have an erection when he wakes up. How many of you have explained the body parts and things that we do, that our body does, to your sons? How many? They go online, they learn these things. They go online, they learn all kinds of things that are not even acceptable in society, because we do not have the courage to have these conversations with our children, right? And then there are those of us that overindulge our children, that we just let them roam the house and the world by themselves. You know, I was watching Tonto Dike's video one day, and I see her son slapping her tush. And I'm thinking to myself, and she's like, yeah, she's giggling and all that. And I'm thinking, oh God, this child is not being taught boundaries. A woman's body is not your drum. A woman's body is not your toy, right? But then I had to ask myself, how did he learn this? So now it goes back to us, doesn't it? It goes right back to us, the adults. It goes back to us, the adults, and how we behave in our home. Is the father cheating on his partner and everybody knows? Is the mother cheating on her husband and everybody knows? Right? Those are the questions I started to ask myself. How did we get here? How did we get here? Right? How did we get here? How did we get here? We got here because a lot of us are not willing to face the truth. A lot of us have been told in church that do not speak against the God's chosen. And we watch these pastors and just abuse and rape women, especially minors. A lot of pastors have become like godlike, that people worship. So you find a lot of young girls attracted to them. And sometimes, yes, the young girls throw themselves at these men, but a minor is still a minor. I don't care if she walked across the stage naked. I don't care. The adult is the one that has the power to say no. And people say, oh, but you can't, you see these kids these days and you can't tell who's an adult and who's not. Honey, ask questions. Ask them. And if they lie, ask for ID. Enough is enough already. We keep making excuses. Oh, it's a girl. She wore, her skirt was too short. Her ovaries. I really believe in being proactive. But we cannot continue to blame the victims of rape because of what they wore, because of how they presented themselves, because our men cannot control themselves. A lot of men cannot control themselves. A lot of Nigerian men, or black men, or white men, or whatever men, believe that a woman's body is theirs for the taking. That's part of the reasons why they have problems with people like me that are lesbians, that are same gender loving. Misogyny, patriarchy, that is huge in our community as Africans. Men walk around believing that when they see a woman, by law, that woman must be theirs. I don't know where these laws are written, but it seems like every Nigerian man, you'll see an Agbeko just walking past a doctor or a dentist, and he'll walk up to her with full confidence. And then toast her, and when the woman says no, they start abusing her, they start calling her names, they start acting all wonky and woyo. It's time we start to pay attention. We're damaging too many people. We're damaging too many young women, and yes, of course, men. Now, what are the steps for speaking up when you see something? When you know that, or even see or think something, it's 2022. They have rape kits. So don't say, oh, the child could lie. Yes, children lie. Children do lie. People lie in general. But they have medical ways of finding out who raped the person. If the child says, oh, your husband raped me, you can take that child to get a swab, right? And they will test for the DNA of the sperm that was injected in her. And if the person did use a condom, there will be hair follicles, there will be something on that child that will connect the rapist to the rapee. So what Abdul Aliyu says, what are the steps for speaking up? How about we start with what are the steps to recognize a child that is raped? A child that is raped, man, boy or girl, usually girls, they start to act funny. Sometimes they retract within themselves. They become very quiet. When they're around their abuser, they get very afraid. And you'll see that they shrink every time they walk into a room where the abuser is. If you are paying attention, you will see a change in the demeanor of this person or this child that has been raped. They either become reclusive or they become sharp-mouthed, where because they think, because, oh, you're doing the jiggy-jiggy with your husband and I'm doing the jiggy-jiggy, not knowing it's rape with your husband, we're on the same level, we're on the same class, so they'll become very rude to you and your partner or husband. These are some of the signs of a child that has been raped. They become suicidal, they feel unworthy because they've been seriously violated. Many of us Nigerians have been violated, especially Nigerian women. And for you guys that have daughters and continuously walk around abusing your employees, sexually abusing your employees, sexually harassing your employees, people on the streets, people that work in the supermarket, let me tell you something. I took a class, right, in sexual harassment. I took a class in inclusion and diversity, a course, not a class. I'm certified. I cannot tell you the slippery slope that is out there, from, oh, you're pretty, to a man slapping you on the butt. Ordinary hi in my DM, in my back channel, somebody comes in there, a man, anybody comes in there and says hi, I'm not answering you. Because ordinary hi in our community apparently is a yes, I'm willing to entertain you in my personal space. We have to start to build boundaries around our daughters. There's no reason your male son and your male daughter at the age of 10 are taking showers together. They're going to be aroused. I know you don't like to think about your children having sexual orgies, but we do. Children are human beings. I no longer call children children when they hit 10. I start calling them people, because from my walk and from what I have learned from doing research and studying, it's amazing. A 10-year-old can get pregnant. You know that, right? Even though it's not healthy for them physically to carry a child full term. I have seen cases of 10-year-olds that were raped and got pregnant. The case that's going on right now of a Nigerian pastor that raped a 10-year-old that is 9 months pregnant, and the headlines are even more sickening. Every day, the headlines are pastor rapes girl, 10-year-old girl, and is not willing to take up the responsibility. I'm sorry. Responsibility. Okay. Why is a victim of a rape case the responsibility of the raper? Shouldn't this guy be locked up so he doesn't do it to other people? Shouldn't we be finding therapy for this girl? But no, people are too busy looking to make money on the pain of a rape victim. So because the guy did not pay, that's the only reason why the story came out. Can you imagine? Imagine if that's your daughter. One of the things I ask men and women to do is, imagine if your child is the one that has been sexually abused. What would your response be? Would you want a parent that will pay off the judge not to say anything? Or are you going to be the parent that collects a bribe from your partner not to speak up? How do we speak up? Let's go to that. Abdul Aliyu says, what are the steps for speaking up? First of all, you take the child, the minor, to an emergency, or anybody that's been raped. You take them to a hospital. You ask for them to do a rape kit test on them. and then you call the police. In America, we have rules and regulations in place. If I walk into a doctor's office and they ask me if I feel safe in my house and I say no, guess what? They're calling the police. If my child goes into a doctor's office and says he doesn't feel safe with me, they're calling the police and there's going to be investigations. But sadly, our police departments in Nigeria is corrupt. Nigeria is a country where you can buy or pay anything off. You can kill somebody and pay the judge and you're free. You can kill somebody, it depends on the luck of the draw that day. Anything can be bought in my country, and it's sad. But everything starts and stops with us. So you take the child that has been raped to the police and you have a rape kit test done on them. That way they collect all the evidence, the semen, the tears. They might take pictures, we don't know. But I know for a fact that in America, they'll take a swab and save the sperm so they can do a DNA. That way they're able to accurately match the person that raped the child. In America, when there's a rape case, the first place they start is in the home, not outside. Because statistics shows us that 80% of rape victims or more are raped by people they know. Fathers, brothers, mothers, sisters, cousins, uncles, and aunts, or family friends. It breaks my heart because it's 2022. We're so cool. You guys are so woke. But we're not talking about the things that matter. We're not talking about the number of children that are destroyed every day. Once you call the police, once you take the child to the hospital, ask for a police to be called in, take details, save all the clothing, save all the blood-stained clothing, save everything you can save, and turn it over to the police for full investigation. And please, don't settle out of court. Because too many people accept bribes and money to shut up, to be quiet. And that's what I see a lot of. Where a young child is raped, and we're now considered, instead of going forward, we're too embarrassed to say, oh, my partner, my husband, my uncle, my cousin, my dog raped somebody. How many of you know family members that raped someone? How many? How many? A lot of us do. Growing up, I knew that some of the house girls were being raped by my brothers. I knew some of the house boys were doing horrible things to other people in the household. And I didn't speak up then, because children's voices are not supposed to be heard. When I was growing up, you guys are the Sorosoke generation. Trust me, you can speak up. And you don't have to go to social media and start dragging somebody. You can just go to the police. And if the police are not doing something, because the worst thing for me, I watched a young woman on about 2 years ago start dragging every guy in Calabar and started to accuse them of rape. So there's a double-sided coin to this thing. There's no way to prove it. You're not giving names. You're not giving places. You're not giving anything. So once you go to the police and you have everything recorded, now you try and remove that child from that household. If it's your husband, honey, kick the man out. If you're in America, kick the man out. If you're in Nigeria, kick the man out, or you move back to your village. Integrity, integrity, integrity. Integrity is one of the most important things in this world. And unfortunately, a lot of us Africans and Black people, we have lost our moral compass. We have lost our moral compass. Right? It's all about show off. It's all about asking people, being trending. It's all about stupid things that doesn't make sense. Thank you so much, Abdul Aliyu. Shukru to you for always being here and always pushing me to answer the questions. What is the best child age for parents to have the talk with them? In my opinion, in 2022, I will start doing at 7. And I say I'll start doing it at 7 because it seems like all the schools have moved everything. Instead of from notebooks, I still use my notebooks. I write like crazy, right? They have moved everything onto the computer. So a lot of our children are on the internet and they're learning about sex. Even cartoons, my God, cartoons. Cartoons used to be the place where you go and your child is able to stay a child. Now you go to Sesame Street, they have boyfriends, they have girlfriends, they have boyfriends and gay people and straight people, which is kind of cool, but we're giving them too much to handle. A lot of the material is not even age appropriate on the internet. So please, in my opinion, from the age of 7, you're not teaching them the B's and you're teaching them about their bodies. You're talking to them about, look, this is your vagina. It's a private thing for you. And if anybody touches you there, you come and tell me. If anybody puts their mouth there, you come and tell me. This is your penis. You're not allowed to rub it on other people. You're not allowed to stick it in other people or other things. And if anybody touches your penis, and please don't use that PP and guinea corn. Use the proper biological name, penis. If somebody touches your penis, come and tell me. Have conversations with them. Teach them about safety. Teach them about intuition. Teach them about integrity, compassion, and empathy. Because down the line, when people start to treat them wrong, they will know the difference between proper way of engaging with boundaries and rape. Now, I must say, if I am teaching my child integrity, compassion, and empathy, I must embodify that as well. I cannot just walk around thinking, oh my God, just do as I say. No, those days are over. In 2022, you have to walk your talk. A lot of us had to go and find our moral compass and fix it. A lot of us had to go and find our integrity wherever we threw it away. Thank God we didn't burn it. Because we grew up in a culture where anything goes. I mean, people are being kidnapped every day. So you want to, not only do you talk to your children about not hanging out with strangers, right? Because we tell them all the time, don't hang out with strangers, don't talk to strangers, but we never tell them. If uncle so and so, if this guy, if this woman touches you inappropriately, that's not a good thing. You must scream, you must tell me. And if you don't feel comfortable with when somebody's around you, you tell me. Because children are smarter. They're so much smarter than we believe they are. And when you look around you these days, you'll see that the education we give our children by having them use computers and things like that is great, but our own interaction with our children is so much more valuable. I pray every day. Well, my children are grown now, and a lot of the things I know now, I wish I had known when I was having children, before I had children. But unfortunately, you passed it, you have to take a test and then you pass. So that's why one of the reasons why I started speaking up, because we're not speaking up and out enough, right? We need to start to speak up. We need to start to speak out. We need to start to have conversations amongst ourselves. Now, if you find out that a child has been raped and you have taken the child to the proper authorities, like the hospital, to get the rape test kit done, and you have reported the case to the police, now you have to figure out ways to help this child. Now you have to figure out a way to help this child. They need a space where they can talk freely, comfortably, without the fear of being judged, without the fear of being called a slut, because a lot of parents do that, without the fear of being looked down upon, because now they're no longer a virgin, even though it had nothing to do with them. So we really truly need to start to understand that our society, Black people in general, especially Africans, because of misogyny and patriarchy, we have put the male species on such a high pedestal that even when they do something wrong in our homes, we're not speaking out. We're not talking about this thing. I am so proud of this young woman, old woman, I don't even know what her age is, so pardon me for being ageist, that said on this thread that Chioma Anuligo, I posted the link to the studio if you want to come in and share your story. I'll be very grateful. It's heart-wrenching, you know. But Chioma says, my ex-husband molested my daughter, who happened to be his stepdaughter, when she was 6 years old. 6-year-olds are being raped. 6. And we believe everything is okay in our homes, in our families. At some point, we have to start to do better. We really have to start to do better. We have to start to have the courage to speak up and speak out. We have to educate ourselves. And even if I'm not giving you all the information that you need today, you can always Google. You can go online. And by the way, there's a lot of organizations in Nigeria and across the globe for people that have been raped. There's a lot of not-for-profit that will help you with therapy, with medical bills, with all kinds of stuff. And if you're one of those people whose partners has raped your child and you're scared that you won't have a home to go to, or you don't have a place to go to, or you don't have income, they have shelters. They have buildings and homes and houses and people that will take you in while you're struggling to get yourself together, while you're struggling to figure out what your next step is. There's no reason why you have to expose your children to the same person that abused them in your home. That's why it's important to call the police. That's why I tend to tell people, report, report, report. Too many of us women are damaged. Too many of us young people are damaged, both men and women. But I continuously speak about women because data shows that there are more women that are raped by their family members, by their family friends, their pastors. It's sad. But I think it's time that we all start to speak out. I think it's time that we start to make sure that we put boundaries around our children. We need to make sure that we are helping our children to learn proper behavior. How many of you guys have told your sons, oh, go out there and have fun? Who are they having fun with? Somebody else's daughter. So, but you tell your daughters, you can't go out, don't do this, don't do that, so that you don't get raped. But who's doing the raping? Have you taught your sons what proper conduct is around women? Have you taught your 15-year-old son that when a girl says no, it's no? No matter what's going on, no matter if he's on top of her and she says no, he's got to get up because it's still rape. Have you taught your sons not to physically touch a woman without her permission? Have you taught your sons not to kiss a girl without even asking her first? I know you're thinking, what happened to chivalry? Chivalry is always going to be there. But in 2022, you must ask people's permission to kiss them, to do the jiggy-jiggy with them, to touch them in a sexual way. And a lot of times you touch people in a way that makes them feel uncomfortable, but it's not coming from a sexual place from you. You must still acknowledge the fact that they felt uncomfortable, or else it's sexual harassment. And you must understand that sexual harassment is, the spectrum is huge. It could be from the way you look at a person, it could be from the way you talk to the person, to the way that you touch that person that made them feel unsafe. We have to understand that there's a lot of predators out there, and they see nothing wrong with raping your daughters that are minors, with raping your daughters, period, or even raping women. But we have to protect children because children, according to the law, do not have the voice to speak for themselves. So when somebody sends you their daughter to be your house girl, which is not even kosher in my books, but they'll say, Muji, you started. Before they drag me for saying you shouldn't have minors as your house girls. Let me take a deep breath. Yeah, you shouldn't have minors as your house girls because that's child labor. It is child labor. And I don't care what anybody says. The way you treat your children, your own biological children, is the way you should treat these children that are sent to you so that you can help to educate them. And half the time, most people don't even educate those girls. They just they just see them being used as pin cushions, right? Pin cushions for their husbands. And they're like, shh, Don't say anything. I know a lot of people in America that try to pull that nonsense. I call the cops. I'm sorry. I'm not going to help you hide your shame that's going to damage children later on in life. Ooh, that's good. I'm going to add Chioma Aruni logo to the studio. Thank you so much for coming in. I'm so grateful, and thank you for your courage to
Thank you, Laura.
go
Thank
ahead.
you very much. Please pardon the lightning because there's no light, we're in Nigeria where Nepal light is something else.
That's fine. We're good. Thank you for your courage to come up. Thank you
You're
so much.
welcome.
Please
Thank
share
you.
your story with us, and then I'll ask questions afterwards.
All right. There was a time, um, because the way I got married to my ex, it wasn't like I was in love. It wasn't like I was in love with him. Because I already had a child out of wedlock. So not for him though. So when I met him, I became pregnant for him, and I had no other choice but to stay with him. And after some time, he went to pay my dowry, and we got married. I had to bring in my first child so she could grow up with the other child I was going to give birth to. So one day, I was in the kitchen when the NEPA took the light. When I came into the living room, I saw him finger forking her. I'm sorry for the use of the raw word. You know, I was very, very devastated. I was angry. I was like, "What? Why would you do that?" He said that he started apologizing that it was because he was drunk. He was apologizing to me. He said I should forgive him that it's because he was drunk. I was very angry. I wanted to leave that night. As at that time, he hasn't paid my bride price. I should have left that moment. He begged and apologized. I stayed back. You know, we stayed for years, and I discovered that as she was growing, each time she sees her and sees him, there is this fear in her. She wasn't free with him, even when I had the other two children. She wasn't that free with him. Just the way the other two are free with their father. You could see that fear in her that there's something going on. And I keep asking her, is there anything that is going on at my back? Because then I was working in a hotel where I work one day on, one day off. Is there anything happening at my back? Even when she was growing, but she would tell me nothing. I don't know if he was telling her not to say anything. The way some men would do, they may tell her, if you say anything, I'm going to do this. So that was how we continued till 2 years ago. I couldn't manage the situation. So we had to break up.
So I have a few questions, and thank you so much for being vulnerable. So the ex-husband, you found him with his fingers in your daughter's vagina, right?
Yes,
That
yes,
happened, and did it even occur to you to leave at that point?
yes,
No, you were
yes.
pregnant.
Yes. I wanted to. I wanted to. So he was apologizing, begging me not to. That
So
it was a mistake. That he was drunk.
I don't believe drunk is not an excuse, because in my opinion, when somebody is drunk, what they didn't have the courage to do is what they do. You know that.
Okay. Yes.
It's been scientifically proven. So
Yes.
he always kind of fancied, he's a pedophile. That's what he is. But my curiosity, and I know that a lot of us in America, we're a lot more privileged. We're speaking from a place of privilege when we ask women like you, why then did you stay and have two more children when you know that this man was abusing your older daughter?
At that time, I had no other option, and my parents are this kind of people who are so concerned about what people would say. Even when I left, they really didn't feel happy about it. They were still concerned about what people will say, how people will see things. I told them, I said, I'm not bothered about what people will say or how anybody, this is my life. Up until now, my parents still want me to go back. You know,
Right.
just because they don't want the shame of a daughter leaving her marriage. The Nigerian mentality.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really sad. Also, when you did your daughter ever tell you that anything else happened after that one time? Was it a
No,
con
she didn't.
she
She
didn't?
didn't. But I believe something else happened because the calmness, the whenever she sees him, she goes back into her shell. She's not free.
Yep.
Up until now, each time he calls to talk to the other ones, to them, when it gets to her turn to talk, you can see that she's not. She does not really want to talk.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's part of this, the way to detect if something is wrong with the household. Because you see that the child becomes afraid of the perp, of the predator, right?
Yeah.
The child will not be comfortable around the predator. The child will be they will have major anxiety anytime they
Yes.
get around people that they don't feel safe with. And I think that a lot of times as parents, we have to remember that, for a lot of parents out there, there's no help. But it's important to know that there is help. The first thing to do is leave like you did, right?
Yeah.
And there's, like I keep saying, there's loads and loads of not-for-profit organizations out there that can help. And there's family members that will help. And in our culture, I don't know about what happened to you, but I know that a lot of times when I was in a bad situation and I would go to my dad and say, hey, I'm going to leave, da 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 da. My ex-husband had a child outside, and I told my dad I was leaving. And he's like, oh no, no, you think he's the only man that does that? Every man does that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
the
and that is the most annoying part of the whole thing. They'll tell
right,
you there's no marriage that is perfect. They try to paint everything to. But it's not when you see that your enduring times in the marriage is more than the enjoying times. You have to
yeah,
leave. You
yeah.
have to leave.
It's very important that we do leave, because if you don't leave, your your children are going to be totally damaged as an adult. They're not going to be emotionally stable. They're not going to be mentally stable. They might end up with anxiety, low self-esteem because somebody violated them. So it's important that when your child has been violated, that you try and look for therapy if you can, somebody that can talk to them and help them to heal from that trauma. Because what happens is that their sense of self becomes destroyed, and they start to suffer from low self-esteem, which now leads to so many other things, right?
Mm.
The wrong choices in their life. So how are you managing today?
Well, thank God. Just trying to fix myself up. Just still trying to. It's not easy. It's not easy, but
I'm sure.
I know. Yeah, I'm going to make it. I'm going to skate through.
Yes, you will.
Uh,
Yes, you
yeah.
will. I thank you so much for coming in to the studio.
Thank
I'm
you very much.
so proud of you for your courage to do this. It's so
Thank
very
you very
important
much.
that we start to speak out against
Yeah.
abusers, against molesters, against people that truly, really are evil, because that's what
Yeah.
it is, evil.
Of course.
And sometimes it's mental illness, because that's what it's been said to be when a
Yeah.
person is a pedophile. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I'm going to put you back
You're
into.
welcome. Thank you.
It's good to
Thank you
meet
very
you,
much. Man.
and I'll reach
Thank
out to
you.
you. God
All
bless you.
right, man. Thank you. Thank you, man. All right.
Wow. I mean, that was very powerful. I'm just blown away by this young woman's courage to share her story with us. It's important that we share our stories. It's important that we share our stories not for ourselves, but for others that are going through the same thing, so that they know that this too shall pass, so that they know that they're not alone out there. Society continues to tell us that everything is our fault as parents, right? And it's not. What we know is what we can offer. When something happens to you in a Nigerian family and you go tell your parents about it, the first thing they do is tell you, "Oh, go back to your husband's house." You're not the whole first person to have problems in your husband. Like the woman whose son is a doctor rapes a child that was put in their home, and The mother comes out and says, is my child, is my son the first person to rape a child? Like, really? Raping a child is like winning a gold medal now? I mean, what are we telling ourselves? What are we telling society? What are we telling people? That young girls, it's okay for young girls to be pincushions for grown adults. We all have to do better, because rapists are not just out there, right? Rapists, I repeat, are not just people that are out there. Rapists are in our homes. They are uncles, they are friends, they are cousins. We must stop and think, what if it's me, my child, my cousin? When you know of a case of rape, child molesters, and you don't speak up, what happens to your child that has been raped? They grow up to have anxiety, they grow up to have emotional issues, they grow up not able to trust people around them. That's what happens. But this thing of I must stay married by hook or by hellfire, we need to stop that. Because at the end of the day, what we permit is what happens. So I am going to put majority of the blame on women that don't speak up, women that stay with men that rape their daughters, that rape their house girls, women with sons that rape, and men that brush these things off like it's nothing. Men that abuse young girls are pedophiles, they're criminals. Pastors that abuse young girls are pedophiles. A pastor last week was being paraded for raping a 10-year-old girl, who, if she was not pregnant, nobody would have known, but the mother knew. The mother wanted the pastor to pay her off. What is she, a pimp? If you're in a home where you know your husband is raping your child, please call the police. Get the police involved. Because I'm telling you, that child that you have chosen not to help, that child that you have chosen not to speak up for, will never be the same. They will grow up to resent you. They will grow up not to like you. They will grow up not to respect you. And they themselves might even grow up to be child abusers, because we already know that when a person, a rapist, more than like a raped victim, more than likely will rape as well. So here are 3 things I want you guys to take off today with this show. 3 things. When you find out that your child, your cousin, your dog, your cat, your house girl is being raped by anybody, know that more than 80% of the rapes that happens to minors happens in our home, by our sons, by our husbands, by your husbands, because I'm a lesbian, by our sons, our brothers, our cousins, our family friends, right? When you know who this person is, in the name of God, please, or whatever it is that you call your God, and even if you don't believe in God, call the police. The first thing to do is take the child to be tested. There's something called a rape kit that they'll take swabs of the liquids and the whatever evidences that's found, so they can do a DNA to match the predator to the prey's evidence that's collected. Make sure that you take this person or child to the doctor's office. Make sure at least try to get them therapy. Let me tell you, before a person gets raped outside, I mean, outside the sphere, outside the family, outside the church, by a stranger, it's 90% chance of being raped by a total stranger. 90%. So when we start to talk about things that affects us and things that we're doing, and how my husband it was an accident. It's not an accident that your husband raped your daughter. It's, oh my God, it's horrible. Nobody gets drunk and goes and rapes a child. It's because they did not have the balls to do it before, and the alcohol made them have the courage to do that. And if you don't speak up, they'll do it to a lot of other children. And this right here is why we're having this conversation. Rape of young girls has been considered the norm forever in Nigeria and a lot of Black communities and across the globe because of patriarchy and misogyny. And most of the time, it's us women that are the gatekeepers because we don't speak out. So I ask you today, if you're in a situation like that, I will find the contact information for different places where you can, in America, where you can call if you've been raped or you think your husband is raping your child. And please, this is not, I'm sorry I have to say this, but this is not a weapon. As in, you don't like your husband anymore, you go and call the rape, call the police and say your husband raped your child. Please do not do that, because what happens is that you devalue the truth of people that are actually going through that. So I'm going to post after this show, I'm going to post the link to a not-for-profit in Nigeria that might be able to help you. I'll post links in America. We have tons of those. And if there's anything going on, any questions, please continue to have the conversations so that we can talk about this. There's too many stories like that of Chioma, who came on the screen with me to talk about the fact that her ex-husband was raping her daughter, his stepdaughter. I also shared stories of a doctor in Nigeria, a famous cancer doctor in Nigeria, that has a case going on right now where he raped a 15-year-old. There's also a story of a Nigerian man in America that was a big-time movie producer. I'm going to find the story and put the link out there, that raped his daughters for years and his wife never said a word. And I know that there's a lot of women out there that are in Chioma's situation, but they're afraid to speak up because their livelihood depends on their roof over their head depends on their husband bringing home the bacon. Everything comes with a price. But your child, your son, your daughter should not be the price that you pay for 3 square meals, because that will make you a pimp. If you know your partner, your friend, your cousin, your boss is raping somebody, please speak out. We have a back channel here that you're more than welcome to send me messages. But note that if you send me a message, I will reach out to the proper authorities and I will link you with them. Right? Let's start to protect our children, our daughters, by making sure that our husbands are not having access. Your husbands, I keep saying our husbands, I don't have a husband. Your husbands do not have access to them. That your sons are not sleeping in the same room as young girls. Make sure you have conversations with both your daughter and your son. Both your daughters and your sons on the proper way of engaging with the opposite gender. Teach your daughters to respect their bodies. Teach your daughters not to over-sexualize. And you, go on. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with women dressing their daughters how they want, but dress them age appropriately. Don't be dressing your child like an ashewo that's ready to go and shewo, and send her out into the public for predators. You're in a house with your husband who you think drinks. Don't put your child in a bikini to be walking around half naked. You shouldn't even be in that kind of a relationship where you do not feel safe with your child in the same house. There was a thing that happened I think it was last year during COVID, where Moriah Afolabi Brown came out and said, I will never allow my husband to bathe my daughter. I was one of the first people that was screaming, oh my God, how could she say that? Why would you be married to a man that you don't trust with your daughter, yada, yada, yada? And I thought about it. And I realized that there must have been something that she saw, something that she thought about that made her say those words. Your reality is not mine. Her reality is not mine. My reality is not hers. We need to stop being so judgmental about people and their lives. We need to allow people to speak their truth without giving them, oh no, forget about it. Oh no, it's just it's your husband. That's the head of your household. The head of your household should not be doing the jiggy with your child, with a minor anywhere. We tend to protect the predators and not the prey. We have to do better as a people. We really have to do better as a people. Oh, it's been a great conversation. I thank you all for being here. Please share the video for me. Share the conversation. Have these conversations on your pages with your friends, with your people. Moji alone speaking is not going to make anything better. I think it's important that we start to take this conversation in small bites into the real world. Chioma, I am so grateful you came on the show to share your story. I hope it helps somebody to open up and to help their child, especially their daughter, out of a situation that they did not choose. And if you're a mother out there whose husband or boyfriend or whatever is raping a minor and you're afraid to speak out, I will post links of agencies that you can speak to that will help you, because I can't do anything for you. I'm all the way in America. All I can give you is resources to reach out to. Note that it will be hard for you to walk out of your home, but you should not be living with a pedophile. You should not expose your children that didn't choose this man or woman as their parents. You did. You're the one that made the choice. So you're the one that has to make the situation better. And when you see inappropriate behavior towards a minor, I, Moji Solo Wilson, I am asking you to please say something. Say something, do something, please. Because it's unfair for young children to grow up damaged emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Raping a child is an invasion of their mind, their body, and their soul. And a lot do not heal from it. It's important that they know that they matter. They matter to you, they matter to church, they matter to society, and not just these men and women that are predators. My name is Moji Solo Wilson. I thank you for showing up. And shuku to you, Chioma, for sharing your story. I'll see you next week, Wednesday. And don't forget, on Sunday, I have my show that I do while I'm cooking on Facebook and Facebook only. Just come there and join me on Sunday at 1 p.m. while I'm cooking for the week. Let's have some fun and have some amazing conversations. Share my video, like the page, and follow the page so that you can get notified when I come on next Wednesday at 12 noon. We're going to go on with the parenting. Namaste, guys. See you soon.